Let's get started on a checklist for the Dolphins this offseason. Oh, and wide right. What is up, Finn fans? You know, I had to throw in a wide right because Bill fans have been relentless on Twitter. They have been in my replies when it has nothing to do with the Bills, in my comment section, just harping and puffing their chest and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, you're sitting right next to Miami on the couch. All it's about is getting that ring. So if you didn't get the ring, it equated to nothing. Oh, we won the division. Good for you. No Super Bowl. Oh, we came back in a good for you. No Super Bowl. It equated to nothing. And I'm enjoying it. Because you Bill fans are relentless. So I'm enjoying it. Anyway, let's talk about this video. This video, we're going to be talking about checklists. Now, this isn't team needs. Team needs is a different video. It might be a touch upon it, but this essentially is kind of things that the Dolphins need to address this offseason. Non-specific order. It's just a list that I was sitting there like, where are we lacking, or where do we need to address or figure out things going into the offseason? So before we jump into the list, let me give you some important dates for this upcoming year, or 2024 year. So we got the Pro Bowl on February 4th. We got the Super Bowl on February 11th. We have the Scouting Combine February 27th to March 4th. We got the first day clubs can designate franchise or transition tags. That's on February 20th. Then in March 5th is the deadline for clubs to designate franchise or transition tags. March 11th to the 13th is when tampering can happen. And on March 13th, prior to 1 p.m., teams have to be under the salary cap, but on March 13th is when it opens up. And March 13th is the start of free agency. So again, from the 11th to the 13th, that, 3 days, they're allowed to come into, some type of agreement, not official. And then on the 13th is when everything becomes official. And then in April, the draft is the 25th to the 27th in Detroit. And that's about it. So the schedule will probably be out the week before the draft on the 25th or 27th. So again, we got the Super Bowl on February 11th. The Pro Bowl, if you really care, is 4th. Who gives a crap? The 5th is the deadline for clubs to put the franchise tag or transition tag, and the 11th to the 13th is when you can tamper, and on the 13th is the start of training camp. So that being said, I'm going to go down my list of kind of things that I want the Dolphins to address going into this season. First thing on the list, and again, it's not the most important, but they definitely need to figure out what they're going to do with Tua Tagovailoa. Are they going to let him ride on the 5th-year option, 20 million, 23 million? Are they going to allow him to ride on that, or are they going to, give him some type of contract extension to lower the cap hit, to give us more space, or any other options? Now, me personally, I'm going to make a whole video kind of talking about his contract, what we should look for, this or that. But I don't think his play really equated him being the highest paid quarterback. Like my opinion is, I don't think his play set the market. I think it's good. I think, it's above. I think it's top 7 in the NFL. But I don't think towards the end of the season, his play, and again, you go back and watch, I said for me to sign him to a long-term contract, needs to stay healthy, did that, needs to win a playoff game. Unfortunately, didn't do that. But the Dolphins definitely need to decide on what they're going to do with Tua. You're going to just let him ride out on the 5th-year option, or you're going to try to save cap space, sign him to a contract extension. Are you going to sign him to a fat one? Because I don't know if his agent at I Am Athlete, I think it is just going to let him take any poo-poo contract, or are you just going to go some other route? So that's one thing that they need to figure out. The other thing There's a lot of hoopla around the NFL, not the NFL, around this fan base about play calling. This is another thing on this checklist that they need to figure out. Now, is Mike McDaniel going to continue play calling, or are they going to give play calling to someone else? Now, our offensive coordinator has gone on a few interviews. I personally don't think he's going to get a head coaching job because I think a lot of people in the NFL know why the offense is as good as it is, and it had nothing to do with Frank Smith. I think everyone knows it had to do with Mike McDaniel. So, is he going to give up play calling to Frank Smith? Is he going to give up play calling to like Darrell Bevell, or is he going to continue calling plays? Now, here's my thing with Mike McDaniel. I like his play call. I like his plays that he draws up. At times, the calls are in a very horrible situation. Now, sometimes there are calls that you're like, just run the ball. But if they're executed, they work. Like the play to Devon Achane against the Chiefs, where Tua just horrible pass. That could have possibly been a touchdown because he had two blockers in front of him, and with his speed, he had nothing else in front of him on a 3rd and 1. And then we try it the other way again to a bad pass. So we don't know how those would have went. But again, just hand the ball off. Run the ball. Like we saw against the Chiefs. Or was it the Chiefs? Or was it the Lions Bucks? It was one of these playoff games where it was 4th and goal from the 2, and they handed the ball off and got the touchdown instead of throwing a fade. So that's something they need to address, and they need to come to an understanding. Is Mike McDaniel going to continue calling plays, or is he going to, he could still, design the plays and come up with concepts and schemes and stuff, or is he going to give it to someone else? That's something they need to figure out. Me personally, I wouldn't be against him continuing calling plays. I think he needs to learn from his past 2 years, but him saying this offseason that he's going to stick to the run and him not prove me wrong on that one. Number 3 on the list, and again, there's a reason that they're not in most important to least important, because the number 3 is you got to fix this cap space. You got to clear it up, fix it up, do something. We're negative 49 million, almost 50 million, or I think we broke 50 in cap space. You got to fix that. You got to restructure some contracts. You got to release some players. You got to make some moves, because this team needs some help in free agency, and we need money. Period. So they got to, Brandon Shore and Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel, you got to sit down, start. What are we going to do? And then, unfortunately, Stephen Ross, you want to have this team be competitive this upcoming year, you're going to have to sign some checks, some signing bonuses. So that's a big thing, fixing this cap space, because there are some good players. Like Patrick Queen is a free agent. I don't think he's going to hit free agency. I think the Ravens will figure out how to bring him back. But the Dolphins need to address some areas, and that's a whole different video for team needs. The 4th thing, Dolphins need to figure out what they're going to do with their upcoming free agents. Now, let me pull up a list of the Miami Dolphins free agents. You got Christian Wilkins, I'm an idiot. Christian Wilkins, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, Deshaun Elliott, Andrew Van Ginkel, Raekwon Davis, Braxton Berrios, Robert Jones, Kendall Lamb, Savon Ahmed, River Craycraft. Like, these are some guys that you need to decide if you're going to bring back or not. The most important ones are Christian Wilkins, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt. What are you doing with those and Andrew Van Ginkel? What are you doing with those 4 guys? And again, I have a video talking about cut and re-sign, all that stuff, but they need to figure it out. Because like I said, you're $51 million under the cap. And very easily, I'm not going to tell you how much, but the Dolphins, they could save some money cutting 3 people. So I'll get into that. But they definitely need to figure out what they're doing with free agency when it comes to re-signing guys. There's some names on there. Even Isaiah Wynn. I'd bring him back. The next thing on my list, and again, I just wrote it down as I was doing research and reviewing the past year. The Dolphins need to figure this offensive line out. Now, Omar Kelly brought it up to me, and he makes a very valid point that we got bit with a bad luck bug when it came to injuries. And, we got hit pretty hard on our offensive line when it came to injuries. Teron Armstead is always banged up, unfortunately. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. We were hoping this is a year that we could at least get 10, 11 games out of him. But Connor Williams goes down, Isaiah Wynn goes down, and then Robert Hunt goes down, and he's been reliable. And then Austin Jackson gets banged up. Like, it was just boom, 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 boom. So that is a big proprietor and factor into the offensive line struggles. But that also is a reason why they need to figure it out. Who you bringing back? Who you plugging in? Who you bringing in? Bring in some healthier guys. You're going to have to draft replacements. You're going to have to draft a replacement for Teron Armstead, possibly draft a replacement for Connor Williams if he wants a big fat contract and we can't afford it or whatnot. So there's a lot that needs to be done and a lot that needs to be situated. But this offensive line, I'm sitting here, and I might make a whole offensive line video in itself this week. But watching the playoffs, the biggest thing with these 6 teams we're playing, 8 teams we're playing, now we're down to 4, was their offensive line play was really good. Like, the Lions were running all over the place. The Bucks were running all over the place. The Bills not necessarily, the Chiefs, Raven, like, these guys were just running and running and running. So need to figure out the offensive line. Next thing, need to figure out what the flip is going on with the injuries and what is going on with the guys who are really banged up. And I'm talking Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. Now, when are they going to be back? When can they start training? All this stuff. Andrew Van Ginkel had an injury. Xavier Howard had a foot injury. Javon Holland had 2 MCL sprains. Like, we need to figure out what's going on with these injuries. Are they going to be all right? If they need surgery, or if surgery would help them come back quicker, get it now. Don't wait, so you can be back for the season or at least for training camp. But also we need to figure out what happened. Now, some of them were just freak accidents, like Jalen Phillips and Javon Holland's injuries. They were just freak out. Even Bradley Chubb's, how he kind of just like landed on his own knee and tore his ACL. Those were all freak accidents. But some of these, like Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, Isaiah Wynns, they got rolled up on. So those are injuries that we got to figure it out. Now, I don't think it's the strength and conditioning coaches, but that's something that definitely needs to be figured out. And the last thing on my list, and this one's important, and this is another thing I noticed while I was watching the playoffs. You got to figure out special teams. And I'm not just talking about the coach, but I do think Crossman needs to go. I don't think he's the right guy for our special teams. But also, we need to find a punter. Now, like, Morstead, bring him back if you want. We need to find a kick returner, like a legit kick returner who has the ability to bust one open if we need it. Because I noticed that with the Bills game, with the punt return, turned that game around. The Ravens game had a kick return. Packers game, return, deep return. He fumbled it, but they recovered it. Like, so many opportunities for them to be brought back in the game on kick returns. Like, special teams is so important and underutilized. So we got to figure that out. The punter sucked. Jake Bailey sucked. And when we needed to help pin them back, he would kick it to their own 40, give them short field, and just sucked. He was horrible. We need to get a punter. Jason Sanders started to come into it. I feel better about Sanders. Let me see what his contract looks like. I don't think it's anything crazy. He is getting paid $4 million. It's nothing crazy. And I think we saved 2 if we cut him. So it's not bad. And Jason Sanders kind of had a bounce back year. But they definitely need to figure out the punter. I know Ariza is out there now after he was proven innocent with his allegations. But they got to figure that out. They got to get a returner maybe in the draft at some point. You can draft a guy in the later rounds to just be a returner. You can find some really good guys in the 5th, 6th, 7th round to fill in that role. But they definitely need to figure out special teams, because that was, our offense was number one. Our defense started coming in and doing really well. And then it was the special teams, the third aspect of football that was severely struggling and was giving, either good field position or good kick returns and keeping teams in the games and stuff. Like, we need to figure out the special teams. Like, severely need to figure out the special teams. But that's my checklist. I think I nailed a good amount of it. Now, I know people are worried about Fangio. Is he going to retire or not? Or is he going to go to a different team? He's making a lot of money. Vic Fangio is making more than our head coach. Like, he's making a lot of money. The only way I could see him leaving the Dolphins is if Jim Harbaugh is like, hey, man, you want to come coach with me wherever he goes? I'll pay you more than the Dolphins do. Because he has complete and utter control over the Dolphins defense. Like, Mike McDaniel is just like, do whatever you got to do. You don't even have to bring it by me. Just, you're the boss of the defense. I don't care. Like, he has power, money, and he's in Florida. That's the only way I could see him leaving. So that's why I didn't put him on the list. Free agency, kind of have that addressed. There's some targets we need to address, but that's where team needs comes in. So comment below if I missed anything. I'm very interested to see what you guys have to say. I have a ton of content. So I'm doing the fan reaction video. I'm going to do season grades. That'll probably be tomorrow. I'm going to talk about cap situation. We got team needs. We got free agent targets. We got cut, resign. We got what's going to happen with Tua. Like, I have so many videos. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, please do. And I'll see you guys tomorrow in the next one. But like usual, stay classy. My fins up.